Hello and welcome to Vodafone Presents Ready for the Big League, partnered by CNBC TV 18, a show where we put the spotlight on 10 stellar emerging companies of India who are doing some great stuff in their respective business areas. We meet them and we also get them face to face with an advisory panel that will guide them on how they can take their growth to the next level. On this Curtain Raiser episode, I'm in conversation with CNBC TV 18's Shireen Bhan and Vodafone's Naveen Chopra, and we're talking about some of the challenges and the issues that emerging companies in India are facing. Shireen, Naveen, welcome to the show. Now, Shireen, you're the face of Indian television's longest running show on startups and entrepreneurship, Young Turks.
Well, I would like to say I'm the spine behind India's longest running show. I don't know about the face, but yeah.
You're both. But, how has this space changed in the last 13 years that you've been intensely, integrally following it?
It's changed immensely, Sumiit. When we started Young Turks about 13 years ago, I wasn't even sure that we'd be able to sustain the show for more than a year or so. We thought that we'd run out of the universe of startups to talk about, but here we are, 13 years down the line with a book as well on the table. And it's I've seen this space grow, the kind of sectors that people are looking at, the kind of different opportunities that people are looking at. It's not just tech-oriented companies. It's not just companies that are focused on India, but companies based in India, servicing global markets. There's a sense of confidence, the kind of money that people are raising, the jaw-dropping valuations that one hears about today. So there's been a massive change, and it's good change. It's positive change. So I think we are finally beginning to nurture the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the country.
That's true. Naveen, I have some figures from TRI, which in December 2014, they said that we had 943.97 million mobile subscribers at the end of December 2014. Now that is posing a huge opportunity for businesses. Again, both new businesses as well as businesses that are a little bit established, so emerging companies, mid-sized companies, who can maybe look at diversification. So are you seeing a trend where more and more people are coming in to support or to set up something in the telecom space?
Yeah, what we have seen is that the number that you quoted is probably the number of SIMs out there. So consequently, if you look at the number of people out there and you take things like double SIMming, or you look at machine-to-machine applications that use up a fair amount of SIMs, 600, 650, take a number, and given a population of 1.2 billion, you still at 50% penetration. So to that extent, I think there are still a few years away before we say we are fully penetrated. I think that's going to be some time. But the more interesting part is, what are you doing with the phone, right? So in the old days, it was a voice call, and much of our enterprise propositions were hinged around voice, and then you gave a voice plan, you gave a CUG, and life pretty much went on along that, and there were a few SMS applications that gave you updates and things of that sort. But as you get more intertwined into the digital environment, which is just simply permeating itself out into the space, the number of things that you can do once you are digital is only limited by your imagination and, of course, spectrum.
That's the big issue.
That's the big issue. Yes. But Shireen, is there a lot of chatter nowadays, or is there a lot of limelight on tech-based companies, tech-based small companies? Because it's easy to start a company there. But there is obviously a lot happening in other sectors also. Are you seeing that trend there?
So I think, the reason why we're seeing so many young startup companies in the tech space is because, as you pointed out, it's easier to start. The barriers to entry are far lower. But I think if you look across the board, you can see technology from a very narrow prism, and then you can see it from a broad prism. So whether you talk about digital payment solutions, you talk about e-commerce, you talk about m-commerce, you talk about companies like InMobi, which are into mobile advertising, servicing global customers based out of India. There's a bunch of things that are going on. There's a lot of innovative stuff within the R&D space that's happening. There's a lot happening even within the manufacturing space. So a company that we've profiled, and we identified that company a couple of years ago, and they just walked away with the India Business Leader of the Young Turk Awards, is Hector Beverages, so paper boat. And who would have thought that you would have actually seen a new entrant into the sort of FMCG business, FMCG world, taking on the HULs in that category, and you're seeing that happen. So while technology is clearly the buzzword because it's easier to get started, the opportunities right now really cut across different sectors.
If I may just add on to this, because I see another layer to this one. One is technology companies that just offer technology.
Yes.
The other is technology companies that enable non-technology companies to do their business better. And much of the technology companies actually do that. So even if you're looking at the e-commerce space, ultimately it's to get a brick and mortar product to your house quicker and faster in the most efficient way. But if there wasn't a t-shirt to sell or a pair of shoes, then what would you do with an e-commerce platform that would just talks to itself? So it's actually much more of the enablement of the other non-tech environment that the technology companies bring in and actually speed up the whole process. And I really think it's all about
costs down.
Absolutely, and it's really about breaking geographical boundaries. Earlier you had a distribution network in Bangalore, and you did Bangalore and Bangalore. Now it doesn't make a difference. You do it in Bangalore, you can service the whole world. It's really those things that make a fundamental.
And this is helping us reach out to the last Indian. So we're helping to get through to rural India much faster, much quicker. We obviously, the government has come up with a lot of policies that are looking to put the focus on the rural sector. Are you seeing some trends there also, where we're going more and more companies heading, like you said, to cut down and reach across geographies? Are more companies heading to rural India now?
It's actually a function of infrastructure, because at the end of the day, even if you are a small company and you go and put yourselves out into rural India, where you probably have access to at best cheap labor, do you have access to electricity, transportation, a highway? And it's those that are the stumbling blocks that don't allow us to extend out as much as you could. And when we look at our what we call small and medium enterprises, right, we do find that no matter how big this pie is, any estimates are anything from 10 million to 50 million SMEs around the country. But the reality is that the economic value that they bring to the table is concentrated in the top 250 towns. So 75% of that comes from 250 towns. So you do 250 towns, you've done it. Now, if Vodafone says that its SME business will be centered around 250 towns, so would be the electricity company and the logistics company. So the ecosystem doesn't get built out till more infrastructure-related activities get addressed at a fundamental level.
On that note, it's time for a very short break. You're watching Vodafone Presents Ready for the Big League, partnered by CNBC TV 18. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Vodafone Presents Ready for the Big League, partnered by CNBC TV 18, and I'm in conversation with Shireen Bhan and Naveen Chopra. Another stumbling block is funding. Now, India has progressed. Now we've got so many venture capital companies in here. We've got crowdfunding also has started to help companies. But are you seeing these valuations really? They're really up there. They're these huge numbers. It might work as a big deterrent for companies. It's discouraging because
I don't think we should get taken away by the headlines that you actually see, because that's a very small universe that's attracting that kind of number or those kinds of valuations. But I think in general, if you look at what's happening as far as access to finance is concerned, as far as the startup universe is concerned, it has gotten a lot better. There's angel investors, there's VCs, there are individual entrepreneurs who are now funding young entrepreneurs as well. So access to capital, I wouldn't say is the number one challenge that startups have to face with. But it's a different story as far as the SME sector is concerned, Sumiit, and that really hasn't picked up. I mean, there has been some work that's been done. For instance, ratings have made it easier for small and medium enterprises to actually access finance, but it hasn't really taken off in the manner in which it ought to have. So there needs to be more work that's done at that level. But as far as the startup universe is concerned, because the kind of money that they're looking at to start things off is much smaller, is relatively smaller. So I think access to capital for the startup space is less of a challenge, but as far as the SME sector is concerned, it continues to be a constraint.
Right. Naveen, I want to talk to you about technology, for technology adoption by companies. So now emerging companies and all levels of companies are very, they're not so proactive at adopting technology sometimes because they feel it's a cost, a high cost, and obviously everyone's technology is updating every few days. It just goes out of touch very soon. Technology becomes old very soon. What's your advice to companies? How should they balance this cost-benefit ratio for technology adoption?
Okay, I'm going to give you a real word and then a word that's being overused these days for the right reasons, probably. One is that if you look at the way that companies are beginning to evolve themselves, you do actually find that as you get to some of the more innovative people, they begin to very quickly understand that if they put a little bit of technology play, even if it's a simple thing as keeping in touch with your sales team on the phone, was different to when I started working and you had to send a report in which arrived 10 days later. In the meanwhile, you were watching a movie in some small office town of India. You can't do that anymore. Your boss pretty much knows where you are. Now, that's technology in its own way, no matter how basic and rudimentary. And you can scale this up to location tracking and make sure that even if you're a small company, you want to know where your 10 salesmen are in Maharashtra, it can be deployed for 10 people at almost minimal cost. You know within which peripheries the person was to be. If he steps out, you will get alarms. You say, so why did you leave Jalgaon and go to so-and-so place? It costs
They're tracking their trucks and everything. And
it's a few hundred rupees. I think the change that is beginning to happen, not maybe as fast a pace as I would like it to be, is in the mind. And again, the challenge more lies with companies like ourselves, that have we reached out to these companies and talk what we firmly believe in, that are you a ready business? Are you ready for the future by putting into play things today that will differentiate you and manage your cost structures and your efficiencies? Because a salesman who hasn't worked for today is serious cost that you're not even recognizing. Whereas if he was productive for today, he suddenly is 10 or 15% better off than not. Number one. Number two, it is the cloud space. So yes, we use it a lot, and you may be wondering in the context of SME, how real is the cloud space? But the moment you get to beyond a basic startup, but even if you get the startups in Bangalore, they understand the cloud straight away. And the scalability conversations are beginning to get understood. And as access becomes a little better, you are able to ship much of the innovations by hosting them into far more efficient places where you have large servers that give you micro deliveries into small organizations. And much of our journey in the future is actually to address these segments rather than just look at the large corporates that have understood the cloud journey very well.
But how much cheaper has it gotten? And everybody's looking at the SME sector as an area of opportunity. Everybody's trying to offer them their cloud-based services, whether it's you or it's Microsoft or anybody else. How much cheaper has it actually made it?
I think it's a question of us being able to provide them a business case. Provide them the fact that you don't have to buy upfront licenses and you can pay them every month. That they are going to be scalable. And that today, if you take a particular software, I can give you 3 more tomorrow if you so need them. Otherwise, what does the person have to do? He has to invest, and then he doesn't know whether the investment is going to come good or not. Here, what he does, he takes it over a month and says, don't like. You don't bill him for the next month. It's a language that is intuitive. The challenge is, are we able to articulate it good enough?
I think the businesses are happy with this low cost because it's a trial and error business for them. They can use it. They like it. They don't like it. So the big upfront cost at least gets saved for them. Shireen, there was a time when doing a business, or especially a retail business or B2C business, location was the main mantra. What's the new mantra of business?
I don't think, I think you need to look at location in context, because I don't think that you can be location agnostic. It really depends on what business you're operating in and what location means to you. So for instance, if you're in the F&B business, you're in the hospitality business, location, i.e. where are you going to be based, makes all the difference in the world in order for you to be able to get the returns that you are looking at. But for instance, if you're a logistics company, and logistics today is the big buzzword, these are the companies that are now the latest darlings as far as the stock market is concerned. You need to be positioned in a place which is close to a port, which is close to, infrastructure-wise is much more built up, and so on and so forth. So location will mean different things to different people in the different businesses that they are actually operating. If you're a talent-heavy business, you're a people-heavy business, you want to be based in centers where you've got ready access to graduates coming out of engineering colleges. Hence, you look at what's happening in Bangalore and Mysore and so on and so forth, with most of the services companies based out of there. So I think location and what it means to different businesses is going to be, linked to you being able to identify very clearly what your purpose is, what is the category that you're going after, and what is it that you actually require in terms of skill sets as far as your businesses are concerned.
You're watching Vodafone Presents Ready for the Big League, partnered by CNBC TV 18. It's time for a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Vodafone Presents Ready for the Big League, partnered by CNBC TV 18. Naveen, I want your input on some technology trends, because we've all said, we've spoken about technology and how it's helping businesses break down geographies, reach to the last Indian. What's the way ahead for the next 5 years in India? What are some technology trends that you think will make a big difference to doing business in India in the next 5 years?
I think that's a very hazardous question to try and attempt to answer, because
look into your crystal ball.
No, even a crystal ball has surprises every day. When you do get very often an account manager walks in back to our solutions team and say, guess what this customer has thought of and wants to do.
So how many years ago were the OTT guys on the radar as possible threats and disruptors?
No, let's put it this way. All of us looked at it with interest and said, so WhatsApp, very interesting. I think maybe the mobile industry industry failed itself by not evolving SMS as a tool, and somebody just saw that and come in. But you're going to get a bright idea a minute. I don't think that, and the rate of change and the rate of bright ideas is only going to go up as people begin to understand the capabilities of the digital world. You won't just. I think the only thing that we have to have a skill set for is to understand what's coming at us and have the appetite to imbibe it and to make the most of it.
It's all about guessing this. Not even guessing, it's identifying it, and if to identify it correctly, and there is no right way to do it. So which is
I think
always
it's about identifying the needs in the marketplace, and I think that's where, you know, as you said, that the mobile industry fell short of being able to identify what could be the next level as far as the SMS was concerned, and you waited for a WhatsApp to come in and show you how to disrupt that. So I think it's going to be the guy who spots the needs in the marketplace, the guy who's first to develop a category, to develop a market, and that's why you're seeing all the disruption that's taking place, that's challenging the so-called incumbent large players at this point in time. So it's going to be very, very exciting and very interesting, and I think a lot of India-relevant, India-specific solutions, at least that's what I'm hoping that we will see technology drive.
Absolutely.
Because at this point in time, it's really been stuff that you're importing from the West, stuff that's worked in the West, but I really hope that we start to develop India-specific solutions that are leveraged by technology and the use of technology.
Now, in getting back to this show, so ready for the big league, tell us a little bit about this initiative.
Okay, we started this in some ways about 4 years ago, so it's actually the 4th year that we've been running this. And it comes again from a basic insight where you have the large corporates, we tend to know them, we tend to deal with them, we are one ourselves, we know how they are structured. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have the small enterprises, right? The mom and pop stores, the people who are beginning to get going. Small turnovers have their own little bit of issues in life. And fairly adjunct to our consumer business. So it's a very simple proposition that begins to start happening. But the medium enterprise, which is really where this particular program is aimed at, is one where you can't really get your handle on it because many people have got to a medium size. We define it as 50 to 500. And let me tell you, 500 is a pretty large number. Now they've come from, typically, if you look at them, and we've been doing a fair amount of research and understanding, engaging with them, and saying that what's got them here and what will get them there, and what are their aspirations. Very often second generation, if not third. Very often somebody studied abroad, come back, has bright ideas, dad has done all the hard work. Now they're saying that, you know, I'm fed up of all of this, how do I take my business forward? Somebody, for God's sake, help me. I'm 100 crores, but I want to be like that big fellow. But I don't have the means to go out and do it. I don't have information, access to technology. And then say that if I put a small ecosystem like this, and then begin to understand them, and we talk what I call the ready business language, and say, are you ready for the future? What will take you there? What is stopping you? And very often you will find that there are many technology enablers that a company like Vodafone could put their way if only we understood them better. And if we are able to ask the right and relevant questions, saying, what's stopping you? So what is your real challenge? So what's keeping you awake at night? How can I help you? And the answers could be, I have 50 salesmen running around, I don't know what they're doing, help me. It could be putting a small Salesforce automation down their way. It could be I have stocks lying in various depots, my market's asking for something, I'm overstocked on something else.
So what's the most common thing that they come back to you with?
Well, very often it's Salesforce automation. Very often it is the most basic premise in terms of an ERP software. That I'm not saying that we are an ERP software company. We don't purport to be one. But how do I get ERP to them at the cheapest possible cost and drive innovation and drive cost reduction for them by which they see value? They're getting the right stocks to the right place. They're getting the right human beings to interact with the right people. It just suddenly opens up their opportunities, says, if I could do this, but why not also that? And then you have a snowball effect that comes out of a conversation. And it's really about enabling those conversations. We believe that there are about 65 to 70,000 what we call medium enterprises. How do you find them? Where are they? In which town? What businesses are they in? What has been their journey? And this program is about unearthing them. This year's program, we got 15,000 entries qualified that are part of this segment. So we suddenly have 15,000 people more, where the onus now lies on us to go out and engage with them. Otherwise, we didn't know who they were.
Thank you, Shireen. Thank you, Naveen, for coming on the show. Thank you so much for watching. Next time, we'll bring you those 10 stellar companies who are doing some great stuff in their business areas. Thank you very much for watching. Vodafone presents Ready for the Big League, partnered by CNBC TV 18. We'll see you next time.
Focus. Audio. image.